Alright, this is going to be my Halo Season 2 Episode 6 review. I was pretty disappointed with this one. There was some good stuff in this episode, but the majority I just wasn't a fan of, and the guy still does not have his armor. Like, come on, what is going on? This is a Halo show, and before we get started talking about pros and cons, if you're someone that's like, oh, this show is totally fine, you guys are just complaining about it, you want it to be exactly like the games, no, that is not the case. I understand it's a different timeline, I get it, it's got to be different in this adaptation for TV, but at the same time, you are adapting the Halo video game where Master Chief is the main character and he's always in his armor. And no, I don't want him in his armor all the time, but he definitely needs to be wearing it a lot more because he didn't even wear it for a minute in this episode. Okay, so let's talk about some of the pros. So I thought the whole Chief versus Kai thing was pretty cool. You know, I like it because he is her boss, essentially her leader, and for her to go against him and basically take sides with Ackerson, is definitely going to make some great conflict. And I really hope that we have a Spartan on Spartan action scene in episode 7 or 8, and that Kai basically sides with Ackerson for sure, because in this episode she had some doubts, she was questioning Ackerson and all that, and I really hope that's not the resolution, just her whooping Chief's ass, and that's it. Because if that is the case, that is just ridiculous, you know? I think John should have been able to beat her even without his armor. I think that would have made him look really badass. And it would kind of put her in her place and let her know, this is Master Chief, I gotta follow this guy, he's being very aggressive for a reason. And the whole Kai thing kind of reminds me of Crosshair from the Bad Batch TV show from Star Wars. I don't know if you guys have watched that, but I definitely recommend to. I would say it's better than Halo at this point, to be honest. But anyways, I like it. She basically just wants to be a good soldier, follow orders, take down Chief if she's ordered to, even though she might not agree with it. Ultimately, we know that she's going to side with Chief because if you guys have seen the promo images and trailers for the show, you know that she's going to be fighting alongside Chief. That's her right there, and then a couple Marines, and then Chief. And, yeah, so I hope that conflict isn't resolved already. I really hope that there's another confrontation between them where they're actually fighting and Chief has his armor this time. I thought the writing was pretty good in this episode. The acting overall was really good, too. And I really liked the exchange of dialogue between Chief and Kai when she was basically beating him up and he couldn't really do anything. He was basically asking her, where's the girl I knew? And trying to calm her down and get her to realize what she's actually doing. I also thought the VFX was pretty good in this episode. We got a lot of elites with McKee, which we'll get to that in a second, but I thought the elites looked really good. There was some close-up shots and some good action between them, even though we couldn't really see a lot of it. And then my other positive was Cortana going on to the base on ONYX, basically taking control, and I think she's probably going to be leading Chief to his armor eventually. She did lead him to the artifact, and he touched it, and then the episode ends, so maybe I'm guessing the 7th episode is going to open up with McKee and Chief on Halo, not physically on Halo, but kind of like how they were in Season 1. They were there and seeing it, but they weren't actually there. I think that's how episode 7 is going to open. But now on to the negatives, and the first one I'm going to say is that there was no good Master Chief Halo action. It was just John getting beat up by Kai, going on to the ONYX base, and that was pretty much it. And yeah, he beat up some Marines, but that's out of character. This guy in the games never just beats up Marines, and I don't like it, you know? I don't like Chief being the bad guy and everyone thinking of him that he's in the wrong or something. I don't like that. And the fact that he does not have his armor yet is absolutely ridiculous. There is 2 episodes left in Season 2, and I'm really hoping he doesn't just get his armor and then it's just all-out action for the final episode and then it just ends. That is going to be ridiculous. There should be action sprinkled throughout the show because it is a Halo show. And the fact that they took his armor away and he's barely ever used it this whole season is absolutely ridiculous. He had it in the first episode in the opening, which was a pretty cool scene, and then he was wearing it for a little bit of recon looking for Cobalt Team, and then after that, I don't think he's worn the armor since. And that is an integral part of his character. The fact that he doesn't have his armor is absolutely ridiculous. You might as well call the show Space Marine or just John 117 if you're not going to actually have Master Chief in his Mjolnir armor. My other negative was the whole Quan stuff. I just really don't like that character, and it looks like they're setting her up for some Forerunner stuff, which could be cool, but at the same time, I don't like Quan. So the Forerunner stuff, that's going to be cool with like Halsey and her daughter, and Quan now kind of figuring out what's happening. But like I said, I just don't like Quan at all. Then we got more McKee scenes, and oh my goodness, it's like the same thing with Quan, just a really boring character, and I just don't like any of the scenes she's in. Like, I like the Arbiter and the elites on the ship and everything, but then she's just there, and it just feels so out of place. And I really, really hope that she doesn't, like, discover where the Halo is and then tell the Covenant, and then they basically, like, promote her and make her a bigger character in the series. That is what I'm really worried about. And then I think they're going to discover that she might be pregnant, because there's a big theory going around that when she slept with Master Cheeks in the first season, that she could be pregnant with his baby. And if that happens, oh my goodness. I just really don't like this character, and I really don't want her to be pregnant. And honestly, the Arbiter, I thought he was going to kill her in this episode, and I was really hoping for that because, like I said, just not a good character for this series. And she takes away from the Master Chief stuff. Like, we barely ever get to just sit with Master Chief and do Master Chief things. You know, like, I'm totally fine with all the John scenes, and I actually like them. I just think there needs to be Master Chief in there as well, not just solely John, and then focusing on Kessler and Soren and McKee and Quan. Like, you gotta have a main focus on Chief. And characters like McKee take away from that focus, and it's not even enjoyable to watch, so I just really don't like this character. Also, why was Soren and his wife even in this episode? They didn't do anything at all regarding to finding Kessler, and that's their whole side story. They just popped up, we didn't see Kessler, so I was like, why do you even put Soren and his wife in this episode if we're not going to continue that side story, really? And I think it's pretty obvious that their son is probably going to be enlisted into the Spartan 3 program by Ackerson, and then, you know, they're probably going to use their propaganda against them, and then they're going to say, like, oh, your dad was a great Spartan, like, you should follow in his footsteps. And honestly, that side story is pretty interesting. I just don't like the whole Soren and his wife part of it. I think if they just said that Kessler is being enlisted into the Spartan 3 program, and then we could see the aftermath of that, and, you know, gaslighting the child into thinking he's doing the right thing, that could actually be pretty interesting. But I just don't really know why Soren and his wife were in this episode specifically, because we didn't really continue the storyline. And then the other thing is we just kind of brushed over the fall of Reach. Like, it happened pretty quickly. I think it was like a couple episodes. And then that's it. Like, it just felt very, very rushed. And we flew through the fall of Reach, and then we just have a couple slow episodes back to back. Like, I don't understand it because the pacing for this episode was super, super slow. But yeah, Season 2, Episode 6 was pretty disappointing. Master Chief is basically a bad guy. Kai is going against him. The Marines are going against him. Perez is just doing her own thing. It looks like she's going to be maybe a captain or something, get some kind of promotion. Ackerson still going ahead with the Spartan 3 program. It just doesn't feel like Halo. We are focusing way too much time on random characters that most people don't even care about, like Quan and McKee, and we're taking away from what makes Halo great, which is Master Chief and his story. I would say this episode is definitely below average. I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. It's got some good writing, some good acting, good VFX, but the story's just not really interesting right now, and it just does not feel like a Halo show. It just feels like a Space Marine show using names from the Halo games and books. And I am really hoping that Chief does not just get his armor at the end of Episode 7, and then Episode 8 is basically just all action. I'm really worried that Episode 7 is going to open up with Chief and McKee just on Halo, looking at it, discovering stuff about it, and then we're going to have a bunch of Quan Forerunner stuff, and she's going to be like the chosen one, the protector or whatever. And then Cortana is going to lead Chief to his armor at the end of Episode 7, or Ackerson is going to give him the armor because they're getting invaded by a bunch of elites or something. Then the episode ends with a cliffhanger, and then Episode 8 is just an all-out battle between Chief, Kai, a couple Marines, and a bunch of the elites and Arbiter. But let me know what you guys thought about Season 2, Episode 6.